Well, hello and a very warm welcome back to the Andrew Eborn Show, now renamed A and E, the Andrew and Errol Show. And I'm joined yet again by the brilliant Errol Musk. How are we doing, Errol?
I'm good, thank you.
Excellent. No,
How
what
are
I
you?
love about this show, it gives us an opportunity to unpack the several stories that are going around the world, not just about you and your wonderful family, but about Elon. Now that he's got this fantastic position in the Trump administration. Elon's recently said that the UK is going full Stalin, is what is what they're saying. He talks about UK Labour's tax plan, and he likened UK Labour government to Joseph Stalin, references the famine-causing farm collectivization, and so on and so forth, and talking about the tax plan ending inheritance tax exemptions for farms worth over 1 million. We've got all the farmers going out with their tractors at the moment complaining about this. Well, what's your view on all of that?
Well, Elon's right, of course. And what the Starmer crowd is doing is absolutely unbelievable. I don't know where they're getting their instructions from, but somebody's giving them instructions because it sounds so outlandish, the things that they're doing. I can't see the Starmer crowd staying in power, or whatever you call it, for more than a few months. I can't see it going on for more than a few months. I mean, I think the English people at the moment, the UK people are sort of punch drunk. They just can't believe the things that are being thrown at them by this guy, by this crowd,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
the type
it
of
is
people he's
incredible.
put
I mean,
in.
you're looking at this sort of stuff. So the policy is this: is starting in April 2026. Farms which are valued above 1 million, and obviously a lot of the land is worth a lot more. They're going to face a 20% inheritance tax rate, and farmers obviously say, "Look, we're just not going to be able to survive."
Well, yes, you won't be able to pay it. You'll have to go and take out a loan to be able to have your keep your farm in the going. I mean, look, this Starmer guy, in my, from our point of view, my point of view, look at him, and I'm a bit black and white like Elon. He doesn't look very bright to me. So I look at this guy and I think, well, he's getting instructions from somewhere because I don't see him coming up with this stuff. But the type of things he's coming up with are actually designed to tear the UK or England apart. You know, they're the kind of things that England fought 800 years ago to not have. And, so we have King John's nephew, now running things, and the farmers are going to ask for a new Runnymede to sign a new Magna Carta, in due course. No, what he's doing is crazy. And you can't tax yourself out of poverty. Taxing yourself out of poverty is basically living on your savings, or rather on your mother's savings or your father's savings. It's not. It's not a way to go. You can't taxing yourself. It's like lifting yourself up in the air by pulling on your shoelaces. It doesn't work. So the way you get production or get yourself out of it is you go to work. The individual goes to work, finds maybe even two jobs. I've done that, and and cut your costs as much as possible. That's what you do. You don't live on savings. You start working, and in a government sense, you give people the freedom to work. You remove regulations that would encourage, that have stopped people from working. I was many years ago. I was, as a young consulting engineer, appointed to do, as it happened, 48 what we call flats, blocks of flats, and apartments, and they needed the client wanted only one antenna on top because we didn't have TV at that time, but we saw how every building in England was just, or Europe was just, all these wires sticking out of windows everywhere, and then want that for their blocks. So there was a company in England called Rediffusion, and they were doing this one antenna thing for the whole block, and then allowing anybody in the block to tap into that and watch any program they wanted. And this came from England, from very smart guys in London. And I went over to see them, and it was also a time when I met that I mentioned to you that I met through them. I sort of met Howard Hughes,
Yes.
But at any rate, they did the Inn on the Park Hotel. But what was very interesting is that when I went back to their little office in England that time, They were only 4 or 5 people. And I thought, and one lady, and I said, how are you going to do 48 blocks of flats in South Africa? Because, and they had all these little panels that they were building, these electrical panels. And they said to me, because I was like worried when I saw how tiny they were. And then they said, well, we have people who do the installations for us, that they do it, we don't do that. And they'll do that for us. And if we were more than 5 people, then we would have to we'd have to be unionized. And then we wouldn't be able to work anymore. You understand? We wouldn't be able to do this job anymore. And so I said, oh. And then I got the picture. So if you're more than 5 people in England then, in the 70s or something, with Harold Wilson, I think, you'd be unionized. You wouldn't be able to do your work anymore. You'd be stopped. And so that's what bad government is about, you see? And that's why Mrs. Thatcher came in, and she sort of stopped all that. I think she stopped all that sort of stuff and put England on a fair playing field, with the rest of Europe. But these unions and things that you would have had to have, which work hand in glove with the governments, they just stop. No, you can't work, and we're not going to allow this bloke to work there. These are hours, and you're only going to work every second Friday, and all that sort of stuff, And nobody can work like that. And that's where Starmer's coming from.
Yeah.
And of course, it's just going to get worse for them.
Elon's very good at calling this out. I mean, there's this ongoing clash about Starmageddon, and over the summer he predicted civil war during the UK riots, and was excluded from the government-led investment summit. So Elon's take on Starmer, what should Starmer be responding? How should he respond?
I don't think Starmer's capable of responding. The only solution I see, because there must be thousands of intellectual opinions out there now that completely have, what's the right word, said Starmer's no good, or this is no good. So if Starmer was listening to these opinions, if I had been, for example, elected to a position in whatever, Rotary or whatever it is, club, country club, whatever, and the whole club was saying I'm no good, if I thought I was good, I would say, look, here's my resignation. Let's have another election and see if I'm elected again. And if I'm re-elected, then, well, now you must shut up. I was re-elected. But if I am not re-elected, then, I was no good. And so Starmer really is faced with so much opposition from the world outside government that he has to consider resigning his entire government. I mean, they've got a woman there who's now what do you call it, Chancellor of the Exchequer or something like that.
Yes. Rachel Reeves, yes.
Turns out she faked all her experience. Most of her experience is fake. And you can't have that. You can't have things like that happen. These people like that, and the lefties, or so-called lefties, Democrats in America, they were appointing people to positions like the head of the FAA, that oversees aircraft rules and regulations in America. He had never been in a private airplane. He'd never flown an airplane, but he was a really nice pick for the left for in this recent Biden thing. And they tried to get him appointed. I mean, just crazy, the type of things that they were doing in America recently. People were, well, you can take this woman, Karina Harris, what's her first name?
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. She, we were talking on a previous discussion about how when you have a one-on-one interview, as you do in courts of justice, you can't, it's not so easy to hide your thoughts, as opposed to making statements that get put out in the media. And one saw with Kamala Harris that whenever she was in a real interview and they asked her a real question, she would sort of look into the sky and say, well, I had a middle-class upbringing, and go off on some sort of tangent because she had no clue as to what to say. And then on another occasion, I asked her about something, and she said, the stars burn bright at night, and every night they get brighter. Watching this thing is this Saturday Night Live or what?
Yeah, it's that word salad, isn't it? It sort of writes itself.
Is this Saturday Night Live or something? And, so, No. You've got to have the right people. And, Starmer has put people in government positions there that honestly, in the past, would never even have been hired to be office assistants in government, to say the least. And now they cabinet ministers. I mean, it's so weird. And, so it can't possibly last.
Yeah,
It can't.
it is extraordinary. Isn't it? I mean, they campaigned on change. This is we're going to bring change. Well, the only change that people want is the change in their pocket. And you're getting pensioners being deprived of their heating allowance. You're getting the farmers being subjected to 20% inheritance tax. You're getting people being taxed through the back door, if you like, national insurance.
Well, the capital gains tax,
and things like that.
They increased the capital gains tax hugely. That, of course, severely impacts people who trying to get things off the ground. I think they moved capital gains tax up to 40% or something.
It's crazy. And they always, again, the campaign said the ordinary working person, there'll be no increase in taxes. Well, there's a knock-on effect. What to know? Weasel words.
Yes, of course there's a knock-on. And, it's been shown over and over that when governments relax their demands on the public, the country shoots ahead, and the Treasury gets more income from the additional trade and movement that takes place. And unfortunately, the people who are often elected into government are not wise enough to understand that. So you can put it into a simple thing. When I started out, I could have, just take my own little world, my world, I could have gone and got a job at, let's say, a very big institution or a semi-government institution, or possibly even a government institution as an engineer, as I happened to study engineering. And I would have got a steady salary, hopefully, and I would have been able to pay my monthly pension contribution, and I would possibly have had quite good leave and everything, and I would probably have had a little holiday every year, and we'd have been living and with a lot of good saving on my part, we might eventually buy a little house and so on. That would have been my life. I didn't do that. I said, no, I'm going into the world as a private individual, offering my services to anybody who wants them. The result was that within 4 years of leaving university, I bought the home of the boss, the head, who was when he sold it, about 70 years old, Malcolm McRobert, of the firm that I was first given an opportunity to work for. Within 4 years, I bought his home. That home today is the home of the European ambassador to Southern Africa. Right. It's the home in which Elon grew up. And I bought that home at the age of 26 years of age. And by that stage, it was on my 4th airplane. I had an ocean-going yacht. I owned about 3 properties, including one in the Bushveld, what we call the Bushveld, which was a wonderful place to have a place. And I was considered a rich man. I drove a 450 SL when it came out, the series. My wife drove an XJ6, and we had everything that money could buy. And that was simply because I went out there and said, I'm going to work for whoever wants me to work for them, my services. And I'm not going to sit in that little job that you're talking about. And then I had many friends who actually took that job that I described. And as the years went by, they became more and more embittered, seeing my life and seeing their life, if you know what I mean. And you could take Elon, for example. He could have finished university and gone on working as a lab assistant in Stanford University, where he was going to go, trying to do a technical doctorate or something like that. And he would have had a little job in a little apartment, maybe in San Francisco, and he'd have an old car and so on. But he didn't do that. He went out and offered his services to the world. And that's the difference between a government that is operating on taxing everybody and a government that is letting people free. Yeah. It's a simple thing, really.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, it's this ongoing feud. It obviously comes at a time when we're talking about the special relationship between the UK and the US, and obviously the UK is attempting to strengthen its ties with Donald Trump's administration ahead of the presidential inauguration. What should Starmer be doing to strengthen those ties?
I saw what Starmer has said about Trump, I saw that he sent 100 bureaucrats or employees over from the British government over to work against Trump. I saw what this Lammy character said. I saw what the characters in one of the other posts said, the white guy. I would say that communication between Trump's people and them is impossible. It's not possible. It's not possible. I cannot go on a public forum and say incredibly gross things about you, and then, for example, and then expect you later to greet me and with a handshake and be on a public platform together with me after I've said things that are not only untrue, not only gross, but are very untrue. That would you've called somebody out. In years gone by, it would have been a duel. You know, if you'd done something like that, it would be a case of you paying for this with your life. Yeah. You know, so the things that Starmer's people have said, and many of them, all of them have said, including Starmer, I think, have said about Trump and Trump's people, are sufficient in times gone by to warrant a duel to the death, and not a sit down and it's all right, I fully understand, you know, and that would be coming from Trump and them. It's okay, don't worry about it. But again, if you do that to people like Starmer's people, if Trump said, oh, it's okay, what Starmer's people will be doing right away, they'll be getting back on that bandwagon and start doing it again. Because they got away with it the first time, they're going to do it again. They're not going to say, oh, well, now from now we're going to talk nicely.
Yeah, no, I always say history repeats itself because we don't learn the lessons from history. But interesting, Trump seems quite forgiving, as I quote about J.D. Vance, who in 2016 called him the American Hitler, but had that road to Damascus moment. And I thought J.D. Vance handled it brilliantly. He said, well, the press misrepresented Trump, but I got to know the man. And when I saw him as president, I thought he was brilliant. Well, he forgave J.D. Vance to an extent, who's now going to be his VP. Do you think he'll ever forgive Lammy and Starmer?
Well, I mean, if those people, it's not only Lammy and Starmer, it's another couple of them as well. The woman with the red hair said Trump is a baboon or a buffoon, you know. And the other bloke with a beard said something even worse. And he said he'll never work with them if they ever come into power. So now he's chance to prove it. No, I can't see, you know, obviously Trump and them, they haven't got time for this, you know. They would try and, they don't only work with UK. I mean, UK today is a small country, relatively speaking. You know, Nigeria probably represents more to American commerce than England, I suppose. I don't know, or certainly could be places like that. But no, I would think that Trump and them would try to find a way around this, but I can't see how it's possible. Certainly, I know Elon won't. Elon won't do it. If you do that to Elon, you're done. You're done. You're not. He's not. It's not that he's not forgiving. He would have to be convinced that you somehow have had an epiphany or something, because if he must assume you still have the same attitude if you now join him or something. No, Elon is not going to be saying that's okay. No ways. So be careful what you do with some people, and certainly most. People like Elon would say, no, I don't want to deal with these people. And they won't deal with him. I mean, they've shot themselves in the foot, this Starmer crowd. They actually thought Kamala Harris is going to win. And so they could get away with doing something that's gross. I must hear you starting a business, Andrew, and I send people over that I pay to undermine your business and go and pretend they're your customers and go in your shop and spoil your goods and you know, go into your toilet and mess it all up, or your public toilet, or go into your shop and break things, and then you find out about it afterwards, because that's what he did. And then you say to me, oh, it's all right, I fully forgive you, Errol. I mean, I think you're lame or something. I would expect you to come at me and say, 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, dawn, Hyde Park. Either you're going to fight me with your fists, or I'm going to bring a sword and you're going to fight with swords, or whatever. But I'm not letting this go. Yeah. Surely.
Yeah. You make an excellent point.
She
Do
came to
you
me and
think then
said,
the relationship, and you mentioned about Elon and his reaction to Starmer and this ongoing feud, is there any resolution to this feud for the benefit of
no,
the UK?
no, there's no resolution. This would be like putting Starmer and Trump's people in the same room. It's like taking, a tarantula and a scorpion and putting them in the same box. I mean, they're not going to walk around holding each other, in a circle. One is going to try and immediately kill and eat the other. So that's what you've got. It's impossible. It's completely impossible. And if Trump and them were to say, it's all right, I forgive you, it would have to be a fake forgiveness, because nobody forgives stuff like that. In as much as I was talking about me, undermining your business, I can't imagine you coming to me, unless you realized somebody came to you and said, that I happen to be somebody who was hit on the head by a brick once, and therefore I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not really all there. Then you might say, being an understanding person, oh, now I see, oh, now I understand. Okay, now I won't take this up against him. You know what I mean? But if I was, a normal sort of person and I'd done things like that, I can't imagine you would afterwards be happy to be seen with me, especially if you later made a success of your business and in spite of my efforts to undermine you. And that's what we've got here. They really thought that Trump and so on were going to be, jailbait or whatever you call it, and or go to jail and or whatever. And now he's the president of the United States, and nobody can really move forward unless the United States moves on something. And so Starmer's case is really a bad one. I wouldn't like to be in his shoes right now. I don't know how he's going to say, look, I'm sorry about the things we said. I'm sorry we sent. I don't think he'll be able to mount that. He'll probably, being a weak character, he's probably going to hope nobody brings it up. They're just going to get together and he's going to hope nobody brings it up. Now, if I were Trump and Elon is like me and Elon, and I got into a meeting with them, the very first thing I'd bring up was what they said. You know what I mean? I'd actually show them a video,
right,
and say, what do you think of this? And, I would not, I've seen in my life that forgiving people who are bad doesn't help. They just think it's a chance for them to do it again.
So people watch from around the UK, the media love to hear your every word and the insights that you provide. What should we be doing in the UK to make sure we preserve that relationship and obviously want to encourage Elon to look at the UK and look at us favorably?
Yes, well, obviously Elon, I like the UK. Elon likes the UK. I mean, very much. And, it's really our parent country. We all sort of come from there. And so Elon doesn't hold this, and Trump doesn't hold this against the people of the UK. No, by no means. I mean, the vast majority of people in the UK who you could say were the Brexiteers who wanted to get out of Brexit is probably still the same. And so we align ourselves with all of those people who somehow don't have a voice these days. And it was explained to me on one of the programs that in this last election, something happened that many people didn't vote. So that the consensus was that this government was elected by more or less 1 out of 5 Britons, as opposed to have everybody having taken the trouble to vote. I think everybody may have been disillusioned or something and didn't vote. But no, they don't hold this against the UK people at all. No, they wouldn't hold that. They would realize, obviously, that the UK and you, I mean, people like you don't deserve to be treated badly. But this government that Starmer's got needs to have their backside whacked, and they need to be kicked out. Honestly, I wouldn't say something as heavy as that unless I really meant it. They're no good.
It's so important on the international stage that we are respected as the United Kingdom, Great Britain, put the great back into Britain, as we say. So working on that basis.
Yeah.
A lot of the press, and we've spoken about this several times, Errol, about how the press misrepresent things and so on and so forth. A lot of them are now focusing what I call the bromance. They've all taken that phrase about Elon and Donald Trump and the bromance. They say that it's under threat at the moment, and he's out saying his welcome. What's your response to that?
Can you explain that again to me?
So what are people, they're saying that his influence and ambitions, that a lot of people are now criticizing that and the relationship with Trump, and saying that the bromance might now have its challenges.
Oh, no. Elon and Trump.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
No. Elon is a black and white guy. If he says he's going in with you, if Elon says to you, if you have a quick meeting, you, Andrew, say, I want Octopus TV to be up there with the rest as soon as possible, and I'm sure it will be one day, but at the moment we still a little growing. And Elon said to you over lunch, I will be behind you. You can depend on me for the things you asked me for. You can go home. You can bank that. Elon is not somebody who makes vague or flippant offers. He's serious. So no, Elon would have considered this whole idea long ago, that he would go in with Trump and might find himself at odds with Trump. No, he's already made up his mind that Trump's good for him, and there's no question of him being at odds with Trump. Yeah. Trump at the same time is a very smart guy. Yeah. He's of business mind. Business people are extremely agile at knowing when they as they go along, knowing where to step lightly, where to tread lightly, and so on. And so it's a way of surviving. And so I can't see any problem between Trump and Elon. And Elon would never, at this stage, he's not even entitled to be the president of America or something, but he's never would step into somebody else's zone and try to push them. Well, why would he want to do that? He doesn't have to. Most of the time, they're trying to step into his zone. So no. Trump has got to have Elon as an ally is wonderful. You don't have to worry about anything because he doesn't hold back. He's 10 out of 10 when he's with you. It's wonderful. That's why he's done so well.
Absolutely. And I think what happens, Errol, is that people misunderstand the sense of humor. I mean, Trump said, I can't get him out of here. They were talking about Murray, but it was a joke, wasn't it?
No, he wouldn't say that. No. I think a lot of the time they embarrass themselves. They don't know what to say. And Elon doesn't know in this present situation whether he should be in this crowd party or whether he should perhaps not go to this crowd party, or this crowd, be with this crowd tonight or that crowd tomorrow. And he doesn't know, and he gets the invitation, and then thinks, well, if I don't go, they'll think I don't like them. And if I do go, then they say, well, you're turning up every day. What's wrong with you? Yeah. So it is a bit tricky. And, I imagine it will iron itself out. At the moment, everybody's a little bit unsure, it's like a new relationship, where a young man asks a lovely young lady to marry him, and suddenly they're engaged, and members of the family had previously said about the boy, oh, he's a dope, and the uncle, and the auntie who'd said, she's a tart, now they all have to get together and be in the same room together often and try and walk back the things they said about these two young people, and they all, putting their foot in their mouths, left, right, and center in the process. Yeah. And but eventually it irons itself out. It's the same sort of thing.
We've spoken previously about the tremendous influence that Elon has. I mean, what's clear, it's got influence all around the world. And one of the reports was about the meeting he had with the Iran's UN ambassador in New York. Iran denied that. Do you have any insight on that?
No, I read about that. I would imagine these people, my experience with Elon, having in spending time with him, these people are seeking him out all the time. They're not. He's not seeking them out. He's not running around every day. Who shall I seek out today to borrow some money from, or to whatever. he doesn't do that. They're seeking him out all the time. So I would imagine the calls I get run into the hundreds, if not more, of can you tell me how I can speak to Elon? And these things come from people whose credentials are at the bottom, they just go on and on and on. And Elon needs to speak to me and all that sort of stuff. And yesterday I was actually in a position where I actually said to a prince of one of the Arabian countries, when he said, can he have Elon's direct number? I said, no, sorry. It's not possible. I'm sorry. I said, that's not possible. And it's hard because the guy immediately, not being used to things like that, came back to me and said, can I then, in any case, just pass on a message directly to Elon? So I said, well, what's the message? I haven't heard from him since, But no. People are seeking to be in Elon's life more than he's seeking to be in their life.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine him pitching up at the Iranian embassy or something and saying, I'd like to speak to somebody. But I can imagine some bright spark at the Iranian embassy thinking that he wants to further possibly, and may well be a very good person, wants to further American-Iranian relations and wants to bring a new idea to the front, might call Elon and say, can we have a chat? I might be able to help US-Iran relations. And Elon might take such a call.
Yeah, it certainly makes sense. Well, and it's around the world. We have Brazil. You've got the First Lady. Now, she's been insulting Elon in a sweary speech about social media. Did you see that one?
No, I don't watch all that stuff. But most of the time, Elon, he wouldn't be bothered with it. And what they want most of all is to be in Elon's good books. I knew that things would go different after the middle of last month with the Tesla robot and the Robocar and so on, being really, look, they've had self-driving cars for 10 years now. Next year it'll be 10 years that I've driven in a completely self-driving car in America. But it's now reached a stage where it might get approval, But anyway, from the middle of last month onwards until now, Elon's assets have increased by about $80 billion, maybe $100 billion, I'm not sure. So this is quite nobody can actually fathom that. You know what I mean? It's in 4 weeks, you increase your assets. At the same time, many of these businesses are undervalued. So his real assets are even more than that. So when these people in Brazil and such like talk about Elon, they're hoping in a way that maybe if they've tried different things. If I'm nice to Elon, he doesn't respond. If I'm critical of Elon, maybe then he'll respond to me, take notice of me. You know what I mean?
I know, and he's always brilliant to talk about. He also in Canada, he's basically predicted Trudeau's defeat in the upcoming election. He will be gone, says Elon.
Well, how Trudeau even exists as a Canadian Prime Minister is beyond me. I just don't understand it. Although I've been many times to Canada, and I learned in Canada something that I learned is my experience. The central government is almost a nothing. It doesn't really have any influence on anything. The government of each province is the government that runs the province, and they each have almost nothing to do with each other. So I was quite amazed when my first trip to Canada was to Montreal, where they all speak French, and they refuse to speak English because in Ontario they don't have French street signs up, and in Alberta and Saskatchewan, the French said, we'll put up English street signs if the other provinces put up French street signs. And you go to the English provinces like Ontario and Saskatchewan and Alberta and so on, and you say to them, are you guys putting up French signs? They say, what? What do you mean? Why would we put up French signs? And you say, well, you say, well, is this supposed to be a French-speaking country? No way, they say, So Canada's a very strange situation. It's about the state you're in, the province you're in, that matters, I think,
It is, but also not just Canada, not just Brazil, but Italy. The Italian president's told Elon to stop interfering in Italian politics because basically judges for blocking the anti-immigration initiative after Elon criticized their own judges for doing that.
You mean the lady?
Yeah, yeah. So Italian President Sergio Mattarella told Elon Musk to stop interfering in Italian politics.
I thought she really, when I saw her with Elon, I was getting quite worried, because there were a lot of pictures that were sent to me, and I saw pictures on TV and stuff, and she was standing next to him, looking up at him. She's about 5 foot tall,
Yes.
and looking up at him.
Giorgia Meloni, yes, yeah.
If I saw
Giorgia.
adoration in anybody's eyes, I saw it in this woman's eyes, and everybody did actually. And she had this absolute adoration look on her face, looking up at him, and the sort of talk was, "Oh my God, are these two? Have they formed? Are they in some sort of romance or something?" Because that's what it looked like. And no, it was so patently obvious. No, I can't imagine. I would imagine she had to say something if he said something about Italy, and he might have said something, and they might have taken it up. But I do know I have friends in Italy, and they're not very happy about these people coming in across the Mediterranean in rubber boats and things. They're very, very unhappy about it.
It's a worldwide issue, as I say. Most of the elections this time we're talking about immigration. One final thing, just for this particular episode of the A&E show, senators have called for a probe into Elon's alleged contact with Russia. What's your take on that? Jack Reed and Jean Shaheen have urged the Pentagon and Justice Department to investigate.
Well, Elon would have as much involvement as Russia as he would have in Moravia, Yugoslavia, Hungary, Germany, because he is marketing products for the whole world that are for use in the entire world. And one of them is Starlink, which is, Wi-Fi for the world. And so obviously he would be dealing with all the different governments, and not only him. I mean, his many, hundreds of, the last count were 177 PhDs working there. They would be engaging all the governments with a view to their attitude towards allowing Starlink to operate in their country. And they at the moment it's quite a touchy thing. And Starlink have made it very patently clear to all governments in all the world that they will only go into a country once that country approves it and has the required regulatory framework in place, and they're not going to push their way in any way. So I can only imagine that he goes in to speak to the people in Russia, just like he would at any other country. So there's no special arrangement. I mean, that's just nonsense. They're trying to cause trouble. That's all. And
it's certainly a pattern, and we've touched on this. Starlink, as you say, it's going to be round the world. You're going to speak to every possible government around the world on that sort of basis. But finally, Errol, I always love your T-shirts. Another thing, it says "Occupy." That's all I can say. What does the rest of it say?
Occupy Mars.
Occupy Mars, of course.
Occupy Mars. No, it's a T-shirt. Elon gave me this 6 months ago, so I actually I didn't wear it for today's show. I just happened to be wearing it.
Yeah.
And that's what it says.
Fantastic. Well, it's always a pleasure. Errol, thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to joining me next time.
Okay.